what's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about things Brits do that Americans do not. What exactly is going on over in Britain that us Americans are missing out on? I'm curious. What kind of British secrets are gonna be revealed here today? So let's take a look. Things Brits do that Americans just don't. What are these?
Cricket. Now we've
That was easy. Cricket. Wow. It's funny. That's such an obvious one, but they're absolutely right. In one word, things Brits do that Americans do not. Cricket. I actually spend such large amounts of time not even remembering that cricket is a thing, that is a sport. That's a very popular sport in Britain too, right? This is like the perfect example. It's like the perfect example. I've always wondered, why is cricket so popular in Britain, but not at all here in America? No one plays it. No one owns any of the equipment. I've never seen anyone ever talk about it or let alone try to play it. Like, none of us even know the rules or anything. This is a really good one.
We had several Brits try and explain the rules of cricket to us, but we are still very clueless. This is definitely not something Americans partake in at all.
No.
And as a result, we just cannot wrap our heads around this game.
In America, cricket...
That's amazing. Is it because Americans are just obsessed with baseball? Like, I don't know exactly how similar they are, but see, they're kind of similar. Baseball and cricket, you have a bat and you hit a ball. But cricket has like what? Wickets and bowlers or something? Or I don't know. I feel like at one point I even tried to learn the rules of cricket and I still have no idea what's going on. And it's like a 360-degree circle. It's like super baseball in a way. Yeah.
It is a very stereotypical British thing to do, but none of us do it, so we have no idea how to play it, what it is, and despite having some lengthy dinner-time conversations with some Brits, as well as watching videos on YouTube, we're still very confused about the rules of cricket.
Yeah.
But question...
Yeah, how popular is cricket in Britain? I almost want to look that up. Let me actually look that up. Here we go. Here are the most popular sports in the UK. Football. Yes, football. Oh, yes. That's another funny one. Football. Although a lot of Americans do play football, or as we say, soccer, it's not the most popular sport in America. Not at all, actually, compared to basketball and American football and baseball and other stuff. Soccer or football isn't even all that popular here, but it does exist. Cricket just doesn't exist, yet cricket is the national sport of the UK? Is that true? Cricket is the national sport of the UK. What exactly does that mean? I didn't know that. It became popular in the 17th century. It's the second most watched sport in the world. Is that right as well? Maybe Americans are just the weird ones. Maybe the rest of the world is loving cricket, everyone's playing cricket, and Americans are just the strange ones. Maybe we are. We're the only ones that don't know about cricket and don't play it. It's really making me question my whole worldview here.
Question for you, is cricket as common in the UK as we think it is? Like in the States, I don't know, you kind of imagine that schoolyards are full of children with bats and sticks and whatever the thing you knock over is called.
Wait, cricket involves all of those things?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you getting it confused with rugby?
No, I knew cricket.
Rugby as well. Is rugby popular in Britain? Britain somehow has a bunch of sports that are so popular worldwide, I think, but not in America. Why is that? It's just a cultural thing. I guess, like, you know, the sports are they've been played for such a long time at this point. It's not like we're suddenly gonna start playing cricket instead of baseball. It just is what it is, I guess. Cricket is fascinating. From the point of view of an American, cricket is so strange, I have to say. Like throwing a ball, it has to bounce, and you like try to deflect it with a bat. You don't even swing necessarily. You like deflect it with this shield, a bat that looks like a shield, and if you miss, it might blow up a bunch of sticks behind you. It's very, very strange in a good way to Americans, I have to say.
It had bats.
Okay.
Like knocking over things.
Yeah, you have the
Yeah.
thing. I'm forgetting the name for them, but they have this
Wickets.
three things and then
Wickets.
thing on top,
I know
and
that.
You have to hit the ball to knock them over.
Oh.
No. You don't try to hit the ball into the sticks. You hit the ball and try to what? Like hit it out of the field or something? But yeah, these Americans know even less about cricket than I do, I think.
Probably just butchered that.
As you can see, we're very confused by the rules of cricket because this is not a game that is played in the United States.
True.
If you play cricket, do your best to explain it to us down in the comments. We will be most appreciative.
Oh my god.
Eurovision. We had never even heard.
Eurovision. Right. Eurovision. What is that? I've heard of that. Not in my American day-to-day life. On the internet, I've heard of Eurovision. It's like a singing competition, or more than that. That the rest of that Europe gets to take part in. Maybe that's why us Americans don't know this stuff. We feel excluded. We feel like, oh, Eurovision, that's free. We're not even invited to that, and we just feel sad and a little jealous of the whole thing. This is like a music contest. I've never really seen much of it, though.
Heard of Eurovision before going to the UK. We were at a friend's house, we were having dinner, and they mentioned that they were really looking forward to Eurovision that year, and we were very surprised. Because first we were like, what is Eurovision? And then as...
Yeah, it's funny. Because the name Eurovision doesn't even tell you anything about it. Like, as Americans, when we hear the word Eurovision, it's like, is that a company that sells eyeglasses? Eurovision? Is it like 3D glasses or what? Some European telecommunications company? It's none of that. It's not what any of us would think by the name. It's like a music contest.
As they explained it to us, the second question in our mind was, how have we never heard of Eurovision?
Yeah.
From what we understand, Eurovision is this music extravaganza that Europe puts on, and all these European countries compete in this big singing competition. And as it's been relayed to us, the UK consistently always comes in last place. Our hearts go out to you guys for that.
I didn't know about that. Is that a thing? The UK always comes in last in Eurovision. Well, I guess you're always the underdog. You always are like pleasantly surprised when you get second to last. Even it's always like you're always happy. There's no way to like be disappointed if you always get last. So you can twist that into a positive, right?
We definitely want to catch this at some point, though, but we really want to catch it with Brits because we think the experience of watching it would be so much more fun if we were with people who really looked forward to it, like we've heard a lot of our British friends do. So we want to catch Eurovision, but we want to do it with Brits.
Yeah, it's so interesting how big this contest feels. Like it's literally a bunch of European countries battling it out in this music contest. Yet like this never comes up in American day-to-day conversation or American pop culture or any, like I never heard the word Eurovision till I was like well into being an adult. Like definitely.
Costume's a big part of it.
I feel like I've heard something about you eat certain things, you drink certain things, or you just have a lot of drinks maybe is what I heard.
It's a good excuse to get boiled in the bag.
That sounds terribly unpleasant.
Right, is this a thing? Is having a bunch of drinks or food part of it, or getting a little drunk before it's time to get on stage and go to have a little courage, or what is that?
If you don't know what boiled in the bag means, watch this video.
Putting X at the end of messages. Now, we've mentioned this briefly in previous videos, how when we first started making British friends, they would always...
Putting an X at the end of text messages. Like, there is a thing in America, at least, where you can put X's and O's to mean, like, kisses and hugs. I don't think that's what this means. Because you don't want to be sending your friend... like kisses and hugs, unless you have that kind of relationship where you do that. Most people don't. But they're saying a lot of Brits put an X at the end of a message. What does that mean? If not a kiss or something, as it would mean here.
Let's put a little X at the end of text messages, Facebook messages, even Facebook posts. And this really confused us at first because this is not something Americans do. We had no idea what it meant.
For me, I was like, okay, what could this mean? I'm guessing that it means X is kind of like the texting equivalent of when you're on a radio or walkie-talkie and you're saying, over, you know.
So this is a thing? I mean, they're saying that they had text message correspondence with British people, and this happened. So I'm gonna assume this is a real thing. I've never heard of this. Is it just a way of saying, like, my message is done? Or is it a way of saying, like, sincerely? Or from? Or it's just a way to cap off the message and be like, yeah, X. I actually have no idea what this means.
Here's my message, Roger, Roger, over, and it means that you're done with your message. So if I'm texting you, I send an X, and that kind of means signing off. Now it's your turn to respond. So that's what I thought.
I thought that was a very creative idea because I did go to the whole XOXO thing that we do in the States.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, maybe they forgot to put an O on there, or maybe they just...
Yeah. Sometimes in American texting or messaging, you put like an XO to your like boyfriend or girlfriend or something, where it's like hugs and kiss or your family member. But this is definitely different. This is something totally different. I'm not sure what does the X mean?
shorten it to that. So I kind of was on the right trail.
You were closer to it than I was for sure. But yeah, okay. In the UK, putting an X at the end of your message just means kiss. And bisou bisou. In the States, people don't.
Oh, it does. It does. It means kiss. Okay. So I also feel like this is like an informal kiss, like a friendly kiss, like, okay, goodbye, kiss, which isn't even a thing in America. Now I'm starting to think of like European, French are famous for like a kiss on the cheek when you say hello and goodbye. Is it like that? Is this a European thing? Where it's like, oh, kiss, goodbye, kiss, kiss. Is that, am I on the right track at all here? I feel like that's kind of what it means.
Do this. At least we have never encountered it literally in my entire life until going to the UK. I never encountered anyone in the States putting an X at the end of a text message or Facebook message.
That's true. That's absolutely accurate. I've never encountered this.
You know, when you're a kid, you write XOXO at the end of letters that you handwrite. So if you write a letter to grandma, your mom's going to tell you, now give your grandma hugs and kisses, and you're going to write XOXO.
Yeah.
But it's always in that order, XOXO. It's never just X by itself.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird part about it. It's interesting that it appears that the symbols mean the same thing in Britain and America. Yet, somehow in Britain, the use of just an X at the end somehow came to be, and it never caught on here in America. That's interesting. Did that happen in Britain when text messaging started becoming popular, when cell phones started becoming popular and texting? Or was that always a thing with like emailing and writing letters? Or I don't know, I'm kind of curious about this.
And then you stop doing that when you grow up. Like, we never do that ever with each other.
It's a childhood thing. So it's something that kids do, kind of like nursery rhymes and, you know.
I mean, it is a childhood thing to send to your family, but sometimes adults do it. Usually if they're in a relationship, and if you're into that kind of thing, putting an XO at the end of a message can be just a nice, lovey-dovey kind of thing to do, and most Americans would understand that. But it would usually be an X and a O, like they're saying.
Singing Ring Around the Rosies, that sort of thing.
Something I am curious about is X etiquette, because we've heard a lot of people say that you always put an X or even two X's at the end of a message. Otherwise, the other person will think that you are upset at them or annoyed at them. And so...
Really? Now I'm really thinking deeply about this. Maybe a little too deeply, but this is interesting. If you're sending messages to a friend, does every single message have to end in an X? No way. That cannot be true. And every single message, like, hi, X. How's it going? X. Let's meet at the sandwich shop. X. What are you doing later? X. Every message, like, hello, X. Is it just something to cap off the end of the conversation? That's what I would assume to be true.
So we never put X's at the end of our messages at first, and so now we're like, oh dear, I hope nobody ever thought that we were offended at them or anything like that. But I'd love to learn more about the whole etiquette of it. Who do you send X's to? Is it just everybody, or are there certain people that you don't send it to?
I am in total agreement with this over-analysis of the X's that we are doing. I want to know, do you send the X on the end of a message to everyone ever that you message, or only people you're a little more intimately familiar with? Is it, here in America, an X, I would interpret it as like a kiss, and I think usually a woman would probably send it, maybe a friend or someone you're in a romantic relationship with. Really? That's probably the number one scenario I would expect, but in Britain, it seems like it's much more broad than that. Huh.
Yeah, like if I'm texting my boss, do I say, I'll be late for work today, X? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, I'll be your boss.
Oh, okay.
Send me some X's.
I'll send you some X's. It's when you get into the multiple X's too that you get into trouble, because at least in the United States, if you do 3 X's, that means something very specific. I'm not sure if it has that meaning in the UK.
Probably not.
Yeah, but X's gets into dangerous territory in the States.
Now that we understand how X is used, this is something that we've adopted and are continuing to adopt because we really like it. I think it's so cute, and I really like it. Now
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad she brought this up. Getting past the understanding of what the X means, now that I have a better grasp of what it means, it's very nice. It's actually like, it's very wholesome. It's kind of like this nice thing. If this is just a casual way of saying goodbye to people, messaging people throughout the day, it's pretty wholesome. It's pretty nice. I like it. Seems fun. Okay.
I sign off all of my messages with
A little X.
Yeah, usually 2.
Beans for breakfast and on toast.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? This came out of nowhere. Okay, this is the next thing that Brits do that Americans do not. Beans for breakfast. Yeah. That's very true. I mean, even beans in general are not that common in America. Sometimes, in some states in America, they're kind of more known for beans and stuff, but beans for breakfast as well? I couldn't imagine. I couldn't even imagine. So it's kind of interesting that I think in Britain, beans considered first and foremost to be a breakfast item. That's what you think of. Because I never think of beans. And when I do, I never think of them as a breakfast item. That's very strange. It is so interesting how these things our cultures are so similar in so many ways, and then just the most random things imaginable are different between American and British culture, like the beans. How does that happen?
Theory, this sounds really good. I'm all for a savory breakfast, but this is just not really something that Americans do. I've never heard of anyone putting beans on toast for breakfast.
Well, I actually did it growing up.
Really?
Yeah. My mom was actually raised in Mexico, and
I was gonna say, depending on where you were raised in the United States or where your parents are from, maybe there's some Americans who do this, but that is the exception. Americans do not partake in the beans on the toast during the breakfast time. Not a thing.
So we grew up eating a lot of Mexican food, and so beans and rice are Mexican food staples. And so as a result of that, we would have slices of toast with refried beans on top, tons of melted cheese. Delicious.
Refried beans. That's something that some Americans eat. I don't even know what that means. refried beans, but that is a thing you can get in America. But again, not the norm.
And, beans in every combination. But that was refried beans. So
Yeah.
like the mashed up,
Yeah, so that's not the same as how they do it in the
No.
UK, but it's still having beans for breakfast.
It's still having beans for breakfast.
Which is not something Americans would do, I don't think.
No, it's not.
No.
I am not a representative American in that situation. The kind of beans that people in the UK have for breakfast is what we in the States would eat for dinner or lunch at a barbecue, specifically.
Exactly. When beans are even eaten in America, and it's kind of rare, they're a lunch or usually dinner, and I have nothing to do with them. There's just certain people who do like beans in America that, we won't speak of them. They can do what they want, and sometimes they whip them out during dinner time or at events and stuff, and it's never beans on toast, though. That's another thing. Never beans on toast. Sometimes beans, in general. I'll give you that. But even that's pretty unusual here. Beans. Of all the things that are different between Brits and Americans, it's the love of beans. Why did beans become so popular in Britain? I'm actually, you know what? Let's look it up. I want to know. Why are beans popular in the... I'm just laughing because this is not something I ever thought I would be Googling, but here we are. Why are beans popular in the UK? Why? Beans have been part of the British diet for centuries. They became more popular during World War II because of food rationing. Oh, so did this really kick off after World War II? Beans were marketed as cheap, protein-rich food. That's true. American soldiers popularized it. That's baked beans, maybe. Somehow America had something to do with this. Americans came to Britain, advocated for the beans. Beans for breakfast. We want beans. Then they left and never spoke of it again. And it became popular in Britain and not at all in America. That is a fascinating story. So it's mostly because beans were really useful when food rationing was occurring during World War II. Beans were accessible, nutritious, and that just kind of kept going till now. All right, that's kind of interesting.
Specifically, you're gonna have your plate with mashed potatoes and salad and a burger and a fruit salad and your beans and maybe a corn on the cob.
Ooh, that sounds so good.
Yeah, it's a barbecue food.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. You might find beans at a barbecue or something, and some Americans like them. But anyway, that is a good one. Beans in general, and beans on toast, for sure. A thing Brits do, Americans do not. But anyway, this is actually a very good list of stuff. I didn't realize Brits did so much extra stuff that us Americans are just missing out on. I'm okay with the beans, to be honest. I think beans are like something you gotta grow up liking. To me, looking at them and not having grown up eating them, I get kind of kind of grossed out a little bit, for better or worse. I'm sure they taste fine and they're nutritious, but I can't help it. My brain is wired to, at this point, as an American, to be like, oh, I don't know about the beans. But everything, even the beans and all the other things are really interesting differences, kind of random differences, to be honest, between British and American culture. And we're only halfway done with this video, actually. So I think I'm enjoying this so much, I'm going to stop here for now and then continue the rest of this in part 2. So if you've enjoyed this video so far, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of the things we have discussed so far that are staples in British culture, but not at all in American culture. So fascinating. And if you're interested in part 2 of this, or just more videos like this in general, me reacting to Britain and British culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.